You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And this is Nika Monford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And welcome back to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We want to welcome you back to another episode. This is episode 267 of the Snob OS cast. And as per usual, we always want to thank those who have been rocking with us this long, rating, sharing, reviewing, telling the good news, spreading the good news about the podcast. We definitely appreciate it. For those who are taking it a step further and deciding to support us financially, we definitely want to say thank you to those people especially. And as a thank you for those people who are supporting us financially, we give them some extra stuff. So if you want to be a member of the Snob OS Patreon community, we lovingly call them the Snobists, please go to patreon.com/SnobOScast and support us financially. In return, you get the show early because you get to listen to the show live. So you get to interact with us while we record the show. And we have some exclusive content that you will not find on this show. So if you want to get that extra content, or if you just want to get the content early, definitely go to patreon.com/SnobOScast. So we definitely want to say thank you to all those snobists, and we're going to get right into the show. Like I said, we always start with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple, and there are some more stories that I'm running into where Apple and their safety features are continually saving more lives. And I just wanted to post this one because I'm curious as to why people do this. But I do want to just do the background of the story. This story I want to talk about is the iPhone SOS feature. For those who don't know or can't remember, Apple about a year and a half ago launched their SOS feature to where the phones can connect directly to satellites in case of an emergency. You can send a SOS, quote unquote SOS, and either Apple or local dispatchers you can send messages to while your phone is connected to satellite. It doesn't need to be connected to cellular, doesn't need to be connected to any sort of local network. All it's got to be is in range and in the sight line of a satellite, and you'll get to send messages to where if you get stuck. So this particular guy, a 41-year-old man who had fallen and injured his leg above Century Sam Lake, I think this is in Canada, also used Apple's iPhone emergency SOS via satellite feature to call 911, according to the Comox Valley Search and Rescue search manager Paul Berry, who reports to Times Council. Basically, that is a magazine in Canada. So what I wanted to highlight was the hiker was lightly dressed, alone, with minimal survival gear other than his iPhone. He had been hiking through the snow for much of the day, but not during his fall. Unable to move due to his injury, the man was cold, wet, and in significant pain. Comox Valley Search and Rescue team members arrived at the location and with private helicopters along with medical equipment to retrieve the hiker from a slippery ledge and fly him to safety. So yay, good job for Apple for providing a service that people can actually use to save lives. The problem I'm having,
alive.
Yes, and he is alive. The problem I'm having with this is if you know you are a hiker and you know you're going to be going on a trip, a trail, a hike, or whatever the case may be, why was this guy lightly dressed, alone, with minimal survival gear other than his iPhone? Now, again, I'm not a trekker.
In the snow.
I'm not a outdoorsy, adventurous, hikey person. But I always thought there were rules. From what I understood, if you're going to be a hiker, there are rules. You're supposed to be adequately dressed, adequately prepared. Somebody knows where you're going to be, and you've got all the necessary emergency gear. That means maybe a walkie-talkie. Maybe that also means your iPhone or whatever fully charged up.
A
He went out.
flashlight, some snacks.
Right. Flare guns, first aid equipment, water, nutrition. I would assume you would have all that if you call yourself a hiker. Now, if you're not a hiker and you just happen to be in the wrong place, wrong time, I get it. But I don't get the impression that this dude was in the wrong place at the wrong time, because again, he was been hiking through the snow for much of the day. Mm-hmm. It's like, did you get stranded somewhere? Or my assumption is you actually set out of your house with the purpose of going on this adventurous hike. And if that's the case, why on earth did you only have your cell phone? That don't seem like enough. Maybe I'm just tripping.
But my thing, even outside of that, you're lightly dressed, but you're hiking in the snow. Mm-hmm. It's cold.
Right.
The later it gets in the day, the colder it gets, even if it is warmer in the day. If it's snow out, it means that the temperature is low enough that the snow doesn't melt. Now, I think this likely has something to do with, all those people say, all these men will say, oh, I could beat Serena Williams, or I could be, a WNBA player because, I'm the man, I'm superior athlete, not realizing that these people are superior athletes as well. And I think sometimes people overhype themselves, and he's probably a hiker.
I'm a professional.
Yeah. This is what I do. I can handle anything. All I need is my phone. I won't be out that long. I know how to do it. It's the same with people who go rock climbing outside with no harness or nothing. It's like, oh, I'm an expert. I know how to do it. But what people don't always account for is
what happens when things go wrong.
Right. Yeah. An incident, an accident. And they're called incidents and accidents for a reason, because you can't freaking plan for them. Right. And I think a lot of time ego is involved, and people get I've done this for 35 years and I've never had an incident. And you just get caught out there, and then you do have an incident, and it says he was retrieved from a slippery ledge. So likely he was hiking. It was snow. The snow was still there. It may have been in a space that had some direct sunlight, and it was melting, and he didn't watch or see the water, or because it's outside, it's nature, and he likely just slipped. And we all slip and fall, not even on hikes, and
on
that's
your porch,
just
on your steps, in your house.
Yeah. And it's just something that happens. And my thing is, if this is the case, it's great that we have this technology that allows us to be able to get help when we need it, but putting yourself in this situation. So now, for me, when I see stuff like this, I always think of the bill. Like, how much is this going to cost you?
I was just looking into that. I did a search, and I found out who pays for search and rescue operations. And I'm not going to go through all this. The scenarios become more common in recent years as adventurers seek to outdo one another, and yada, yada, yada. When it comes to search and rescue, the debate over who should foot the bill has reached a fever pitch every time a high-profile rescue is performed. Because an outdoor enthusiast act recklessly or maybe even illegally, the news media is rife with commentary over the cost associated with the operation, yada, yada, yada. They just say the cost. Paying for first search and rescue. Who ultimately ends up paying for search and rescue operations depends on many factors. So really, they don't have a surefire answer. They're just saying, well, sometimes this happens. I think, especially if they are charging for somebody who doesn't have medical insurance, they get sick, or they have an emergency. It may not be life-threatening, but they have an emergency. They don't have life insurance. What they typically do is they call for the ambulance to go to emergency. What's the emergency room, right?
Right.
When you do that, they send you that bill, Jack. I don't care if you're having a heart attack. I don't care if your chest hurts. You have to pay when you call and ride in an ambulance to your local emergency room. I get the impression that that's not the same for these search and rescue operations across the board, because
But who pays for it though? Somebody pay for it. This costs money.
I guess my
helicopter, specialized personnel.
I guess my point is they put it on a case by case basis when it comes to this type of stuff. But it's not, my point is, it's not a case by cases when, if I happen to pass out right now and my wife had to call for ambulance to take me to the emergency room, it's not a case by case basis. I'm going to get that bill. Yeah. I don't get the impression that that's the case. And they kind of, decide,
duck and dodge.
And do all this calculations and do all this reasoning in order to decide whether or not they're going to charge people. But no, y'all need to charge them flat. And then it goes up.
Or don't charge people who have emergencies, accidents, incidents, not on the side of a cliff.
Exactly. But
because you can't control what happens, to you in your home, in your car. But
if you have a medical emergency, right?
You can make a choice
to go hike in the middle of nowhere,
walk up a mountain
with no clothes, no emergency stuff. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I think you should be charged across the line, and your fee goes up based on the amount of work they had to do to come find you.
Yeah. Cause they had to locate, that's like a helicopter. Somebody had to probably grapple down to get him, because if he's hurt, like, you just can't send anybody. You have to send like a medical professional to go down, set whatever injury assessed or whatever, do what you can to keep minimal discomfort while you lift them up out of the mountain, out of the brush, out of the trees, and fly them to a hospital.
Yep. So that was my little gripe about this story. While I appreciate the fact that Apple is actually putting out products that actually save lives, I'm like, some of these lives could have been avoided, and I just find it weird that, people are still doing this knowing that, I just got my iPhone. Well, you never know. That may not work either. You're just lucky, thankful, and blessed that it actually worked. All right. So that's going to do it for that story. We're going to move into the next story. I thought this was interesting. I want to get your take on it. Researcher Bryce Bostwick recently found an exploit in iOS that lets developers create animated app icons. More specifically, the exploit uses the system's official API to provide alternative app icons, but bypasses the requirement for the action to be performed manually by users. Basically, what it's saying is there's an exploit to where you can automatically trigger an app to do a little animated icon. So instead of me actually having to pick which icon I want to use, it'll automatically have this animated app icon. So let me give you a picture.
Okay.
So you're looking at your phone's home screen and you're looking through all the apps, and instead of just getting a badge and a sound that lets you know a notification is there audibly and visually, you get like the little badge with the number count to tell you how many messages there are. Your icon will do a little jiggle. Maybe some confetti pop down just on the icon. Maybe the icon does a quick little turn to where you visibly see that there's some sort of notification or notice that you have to respond to. So what I wanted to get to is, while this is an exploit right now, I think Apple should actually consider as a future iOS update feature to allow developers to do animated app icons, similar to album covers. Like if you go to Apple Music and you get an album cover, it's becoming more and more common to where that album cover has some sort of animation.
It does like a part of the video or
right. The graphics move on the actual album cover or the song cover. It doesn't necessarily have to be an album. It could be a song track, and that song track, something's happening to where it's animated. I think they should do that same thing for app icons. So I just want to get your take. Is that something that you think they should do? Is it like too much? Because I could see Apple having a problem with this because the aesthetic is different per each app, and they don't want people going crazy and doing doing what people do some other crazy stuff, right? So what is your take on that?
So I think that's actually pretty cool. If you remember back when I think was it the iPhone 12 when it came out, and we had like the customizable screens and everybody was like making all their icons like they gave them like identities. They gave them like, oh, I want the, earth tone aesthetic. And so all their apps had this earth tone aesthetic. So they're already kind of moving in that direction when, that was allowed to happen or introduced and people were doing it. It gives people a little bit of customization.
Right.
And my thing is, as with anything with Apple, they can set guidelines as to what can be done as far as the animation on the app. And we know people can be extra and they can go overboard. But if they put some parameters around it to, I guess, help it keep its, the Apple aesthetic, why not let people customize it? I don't see a problem with it. I think it gives people use their phones as kind of like their aesthetic or identity marker. People have funky cases. They have, things hanging down. They have their own wallpaper, screens, all these things. I mean, why not on the icon give the people the option to turn it on or turn it off? I personally wouldn't want to see the icons do something every time I touched it because, okay, calm down.
Think of it like a notification, like your text message. Instead of just getting a little number or how many text messages, the whole icon kind of did a little dance or something like that every time you got a notification.
So, yeah. So me, no. I have the only notifications that I have turned on are like the dynamic island. So if I order something or whatever, or if I'm listening to music, but other than that, I have zero notifications. Don't tell me. Let me see it myself. I don't need you to tell me that you called me or whatever, you text me or you sent me an email. Let me find it on my own. But I know that some people would really get a kick out of it. And I think actually it would be really cool if you wanted to have when you get a phone call, your phone icon kind of wiggles like a phone, those type of things. I think it would be kind of cool. I think it would be neat. And this is, although it's an exploit and it doesn't look good, I mean, some good things come out of bad things sometimes. I think this is actually a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. I think I agree. I do, of course, this being the cynic that I am, know for a fact that people are going to abuse the hell out of it.
Absolutely.
So I'm almost like, I would enjoy it, but I'm pretty sure there are people who would enjoy it a little too much. So I err on the side of, let's not do it because people are going to go crazy. But at the same time, Apple does, as it relates to Android, Apple does lock down, in my opinion. They do for little personalizations like that. I think Apple does heavy-handed a little bit as it relates to the amount of customization that you can do on an iPhone. They're slowly but surely easing up to that. But the benefit to an Android is you can do whatever you want to do. If the whole thing want to be brown and all the icons want to be brown and all the notifications want to have a different font, you can go that deep with an Android. Now, I'm not saying you should be able to go that deep with an iPhone because, again, the benefit of an iPhone is they set the parameters, they set the look and feel, and you just got to be okay with that, But at the same time, there are some things that I think would be dope to where you should be able to customize, and Apple does kind of hold on to that a little bit too tight, in my opinion.
Reins are pretty tight. Yeah. I think they should, like I said, that parameters on everything else, put some parameters, put some guardrails around what exactly you can do with the animation on your icon. Have that run through the App Store as well. If they don't like it, it's like, nope, you got to get rid of this. You got to change this. But I say, let people, the way we are and where we are in this society, sometimes people got to get their jollies or their kicks or their happiness. And if it's your text message icon doing a little jiggle, doing a little dance, doing a little flourish, if you will, when you get a notification, let people have their joy where they can find it.
Yeah, but I do think they need to leave it up to the developers.
Oh yeah,
the type of animations that you can do. I should not be, as an end user, to make my I mean, you could, but I would prefer as a happy medium. You give the customization option to the developers and let them come up with like 3 or 4 different ways.
Not to the user.
Right. And I get
that same thing when people's phone ring and the light starts flashing, like those types of things. No. No. Let the developers say, hey, you have these 10 animations you can do. You can add your own color. You could customize that. But these are the 10 animations that an icon can do. You do your color. You set how you want it to look. Send it to us. We'll take a look. If we're down with it, then sure. But if not, and give the people the option to turn it off, because it would be off for me.
All right. So moving on to the next story. I put this caption, why we keep Apple boxes. As you can tell, I keep a lot of my Apple boxes, and they're prominently up to display for those who are watching on YouTube. I'm pointing to all of the Apple boxes of the different products that I have, that I use as my background for the video part of the podcast. But there's actually psychological reasons why people tend to keep Apple boxes as opposed to any other piece of furniture, any other piece of electronics, consumer products. We tend to keep those, and there's actually some psychological reasoning behind that. So the first one is the endowment effect, which suggests that people put a higher value on objects because they own them. Apple boxes boast high quality and aesthetically pleasing packaging that enhances the overall experience for owners of the actual device, while also making the packaging feel valuable and worth keeping, despite just being a nice piece of cardboard. So basically what they're saying is, since Apple has a standard as far as design that extends beyond just the actual device, people feel like the actual packaging that the device comes in is also not equally, but also worth some value, which is why they tend to keep them. So is that something that does that make sense to you, or are people just trying to, justify how much money they spent on their devices by keeping their boxes?
It makes sense. And I too, if you look behind me, there are boxes. The boxes that are behind me are the products that I'm actively using, but I have all of my Apple boxes in what I call my Apple closet, because I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to that. I know Terrence likes to sell his stuff when he gets new stuff. I'm keeping it.
You're keeping it. So yeah,
I'm keeping it.
Yeah. So the second reason why I keep my boxes, in addition to being displays for the podcast, is I keep them because I resell my stuff. If I've got the iPhone 15 Pro Max. If I find I want to get the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I'll sell my iPhone 15. And the reason why I keep the boxes is because devices, especially Apple devices that are in the box, you can command a little bit more. Now I ain't making $50, $100, difference between having a box or not having a box. But when I say in the listing, comes complete with instructions, comes complete with the cable, and in a new box, I sell myself faster. So I definitely keep my boxes for that, because like I said, I'm constantly rotating devices in and out, and I'm not nostalgic like that. So it's like, once I've got my use for it, I'll ship it off and have a second home for somebody else. Right. So that's the first.
I keep it all. And the thing is, I think kind of what you alluded to, the fact that you can look at your wall particularly and see that over the course of all the devices, the boxes look relatively the same. They look almost exactly the same. The difference being whatever the product is, that's the image you see on the front. And of course, on the inside, some of the boxes, like I think the 12, the box is a lot thinner than the previous boxes. And that's because they took a bunch, you don't get a block anymore and all those types of things.
Right.
But at the same time, it gives you that consistency of, kind of like the progression. And I think that's why I like to keep them, because it kind of shows the progression of the different devices. I had a iPhone 3. I let someone temporarily borrow it because they needed a phone, and they ended up losing the phone. And I was very not happy about that. But
Right.
it just goes to say that for me, it just kind of shows like the progression of the products that, that I have and that I enjoyed.
All right. So the next one is this psychological principle called the halo effect. The halo
Okay.
effect is a cognitive bias about a person's tendency to let their impress of someone or something in one domain affect their impression of them in a different domain. Because, for example, because the company's top-notch brand reputation and the pristine quality of the device compared to the phones or tech made by other companies, Apple consumers will also perceive the packaging as superior as well. So basically, you've got your whole iPhone versus Android. People who have iPhones tend to believe that Apple iPhone is the dominant device as far as smartphones are concerned, as far as the actual device is concerned. So they take that idea and carry that into the packaging as well. So since I've got a high end, the iPhone is a high reputation. So that means the box itself is superior than all the other boxes that, whether it be Android or just consumer electronics as well. Because most people, they, again, like I mentioned, the whole point of buying the product is to actually use the product. They can care more or less what happens to the actual box versus this halo effect that they're mentioning is since the device itself is of high quality and it's more of a statement than an actual product, then they're going to keep that same sentiment with the box as well, which is why they keep the box. Since the iPhone is so good, then the box is so good as well. So I'm gonna keep both of them. So that's the second one.
I can kind of see that. I know the way that Apple does the packaging. I'm not, even if you I don't know if this counts for the inside, but even if you take the box away and you look at the way that Apple packages the items in the inside, the way they're all so neat and everything has their own little cubby, their own little very, it's catered to that particular piece of the product, whether it be a cable, whether it be, the phone itself, whether it be the dock, whatever it is, everything has its own little place. It has its own little wraparound. It has its own little cutout. So I can kind of see that. I can see that.
Yeah, and it's not just, I just used Apple versus Android as an example, but I'm thinking like across the board, you buy a blender, and the value is of the use of the blender. You're not buying a blender for the most part because you love the brand and the blender is so beautiful and it's more of a statement piece. So you tend to keep the box for the blender. That's not the case. But with iPhone, that's a little bit different because people are, wrapped up in the brand reputation, so they're going to take that same idea across everything that Apple does, including the boxes, and
it's the same way. And it's the same way with luxury purses, luxury jewelry. People keep their
watches. They keep
Gucci,
the box.
Louis Vuitton bags, boxes. I personally don't. When I was in Europe this past fall, I bought some stuff over there. Bought quite a bit of stuff. There's no way I could have brought the box and the bag. So I donated. I like to say when I go places and I leave stuff there, I call it donating. So I basically donated a bunch of Gucci bags, a bunch of Gucci boxes. I bought a couple things for some friends. And I was like, look, you're not getting these boxes or this bag. I will give you the dust bag that it comes in, but none of that is making it back the 4,000 miles back home because I can't fit it. But people keep them and they display them. Some people have even gone as far as to take like the bag itself, a Louis Vuitton bag, put it in like you buy like the plastic totes. They put the bag in the plastic tote and cover it so they can actually carry the bag that's paper
in the plastic laminated.
In the plastic, yes.
They laminated their purse.
Yes, people actually do that. So
That's
it goes
crazy.
to show how people, like you said, this whole halo effect. It's like the product is superior, so the packaging is as well. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to display it like people used to do in college. Used to display their alcohol bottles lining the top of the shelves. It's like people find value in that, and a lot of times it's, I think, a status symbol as well. A little bit of ego going into it. But so.
My sneakers, I still have the boxes up in the attic for my sneakers, and that's again because who knows, I may be off that in the next 5 years. So it's like, all right, again, if I sell the sneakers, selling them in the box with the actual little tags on it, you'll sell it faster. You may be able to get a little bit more money for it. So that's particularly why I do it. But I can see how psychologically Apple as a brand has done such
cultivated
a good job.
That type of
loyalty, that people will actually keep their boxes because they feel like the boxes are actually valuable, which they're not. It's just a piece of cardboard. But that Apple, to their credit, people love them so much that they don't even throw away the box.
They bought into the boxes.
I can't tell you how many stickers, Apple stickers, that I have that I will never use, but I've got them because it's like, I can't throw this away. It's an Apple sticker.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that's going to do it for the lowdown. We're going to move into second string where we talk all tech. So I put this up because, AI is so important, now, especially as we're rolling into the campaign season. We're going to be picking a new president this, fall, or, the incumbent Joe Biden will stay in office for another year. Either way, technology is playing a big role in politics, specifically deep fakes. And for the last presidential election, there was a Democratic consultant who is now facing some serious jail time and fines for fake Biden robocalls. And basically what happens, you would think, okay, well, a Democrat doing fake Biden robocalls? But basically what was happening is the calls use an AI to mimic President Biden's voice and encourage people not to vote in local primaries. And the actual message that he faked with Joe Biden was, your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday, the fake Biden voice said. And basically what was happening is this man allegedly behind the AI deepfake robocalls that circulated before the New Hampshire primary early this year has been identified, charged with over a dozen felonies and misdemeanors, and is now facing a proposed $6 million FCC fine. And basically what he was doing was he was running for president against Joe Biden in the local primary. So his thing was he knew a lot of people were going to just vote for Biden in the primary. So he faked Joe Biden's voice to say your vote matters in November, not necessarily now, which if people were to believe it, say, oh, okay, well, Biden's got it in the bag, or he's calling me and telling me I need your vote in November. So save up, take your time. Don't rush out right now, which if it would have worked, this guy would have won the primary in this local election or wherever he was running against Joe Biden. So that didn't work. He got caught, he got pinched. So now he is in jeopardy or potentially going to spend a lot of time in jail and may have to pay a lot of money. So I just wanted to bring that up to, I guess, talk about how prevalent or how frequent do you think this is going to happen? Now we've got everybody's talking about AI. Now everybody can use these deep fakes, and they're more easily, they're easily, what's the word? Reproducible? Yes. I could not think of the word reproducible. Anybody with a computer, can now essentially make a deep fake AI that could possibly trick people, especially as polarized as we are with political campaigns. People are more likely to believe what they hear versus actually doing any sort of research, and especially add that with the person that's speaking to them is the person that they support. And they support specifically. It's one thing for somebody out of the blue to say, hey, Terrence, this is Representative Joe Klein from Arkansas asking how you feel about, Atlanta traffic. I'm like, I really don't care. You're from Arkansas. Who cares? Yeah. But if it was Stacey Abrams that called me and said, yo, Terrence, I know you complained about the MARTA rail lines and they need to be expanded. Well, vote for me and I'm running for governor again. I'll see to it that, transportation in Atlanta is approved. I'm like, all right, now you're on to something.
Now you're talking.
Right. So I just want to get your input.
Yeah, this is very strange because I don't think whoever this guy was very smart. Because even if he won the local primary, what does that do for him? Because in the message, he's saying, vote for Biden in November, not this Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't expecting to make it to November. So I just don't get his rationale. Well, so I guess it's outside the point. I don't get his rationale, but by trying to win the primary in the local, unless he was running for something else, not against the president.
Well, I think he was. So let me give you a little bit more details. So the agency says Steve Kramer, that's the guy who got pinched, who was connected to Democratic U.S. Representative Dean Phillips' presidential campaign.
It was Dean Phillips.
Yeah,
okay.
Dean Phillips' presidential campaign violated the Truth in Caller ID Act because the caller ID falsely appeared to be from a, quote, prominent local political consultant, yada, 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 so on and so forth.
Okay.
So,
okay. Now I know who it is because for him, he basically torched any type of goodwill that he had with the Democratic Party by trying to primary Joe Biden. So anything that made him look good, he could put that in ads or whatever. Okay, yeah, I get it.
But he was extra wrong because the FCC says Kramer used a company called Voice Broadcasting Corp., which used Life Corp to transmit the phone calls. The robocalls were ultimately sent using Lingo Telecom, which mislabeled the calls. The FCC previously sent Lingo a cease and desist order in February. So this guy, Kramer, is being charged with 13 felony counts of voter suppression and 13 misdemeanor counts of impersonating a political candidate. And like I said before, he's also will be facing a proposed $6 million FCC fine. So I hope it was worth it. But another reason why I wanted to bring this up, because I found another story. This is unrelated, but we talked about it on the Tech John, my other tech podcast. And we talked about how India, the country of India, is all in on deepfakes. Mm-hmm. And the political candidates use it. The government approves it. But they use it almost like for good. They use it for...
Can't do that here.
No, absolutely. They're going to try it, but they can't do that here. But basically what they do is, of course, India has a lot of different dialects, a lot of different cultures in a smaller area,
that makes
smaller
sense.
Location. So the way they use deepfakes is I will lend my voice and my likeness to a campaign and say, hey, my name is Terrence Gaines. I really appreciate your vote in this upcoming election, but I'm only doing it in English. They'll use the deepfake and I'll stay still and I'll say that phrase and they'll use that to deepfake me talking in Hindu, talking in
the multiple languages so it can go
translate, right? And since there are billions of people in India, me trying to go door to door is not going to happen. So they're like, all right, there's so many people in India, so many different dialects, different cultures, right? So we allow y'all to use deepfakes to kind of reach to your audience that you would normally already reach out to anyway, but we're making it more accessible. So that's how they're using them, but again, Americans and then are nefarious. It
would never work. And the thing is, with this whole AI, the introduction of the different types of AI, right? So in this particular instance, when it comes to elections, we are already in a short attention span society. No research, no deep dive. We only read the headline, clickbait. We don't do any further investigation into what's real and what's not. to me, that's where the heart of the issue is, because we've seen how good some of these deep fakes are. If you can mimic someone's voice, you can mimic, you could say anything. You can literally say anything to whether it be a domestic person, a constituent, or whether it be someone foreign. You could have someone not really understanding that you aren't talking to who you think you're talking to. With these deep fake videos, you can make people say and do just about anything, and it looks real.
Right.
And you always hear the saying, you know, you got to see it to believe it.
Right.
Well, I'm seeing it.
Right. And you're saying it out of your mouth.
And you're saying it. It sounds like you. It looks like you. It moves like you. So then this must be true, right?
Right.
No, it's not. It's not.
Then, like you said, no research. They automatically share that on social media, and that spreads like wildfire. And then before you know it, you know,
once it's out, you can't put it back in the box.
Right.
Once it's, I think one of the good things that have come out of Twitter are the community notes. When people see things that they know aren't true, aren't verified, they can slap that community note label on it. But it's not going to be enough in the society that we're in now, as divisive, as hateful, as
polarizing,
mean, as polarizing as this particular election is. We thought the last election was something, baby. We haven't seen anything yet. And so that's what concerns me, because I mean, just think about it. If you think about it on the other side of this, phishing scams. It looks like an email from my bank.
Right.
It looks like the links check out. This is their logo. This is the text they use. This has the phone number. This has the email. So this must be true, right? People are still getting caught on following the wrong links to a phishing scheme.
Right. Yeah.
So if you have this on the level of deep fakes, whether you're mimicking video or mimicking voice, it's just another advanced layer to that. And I don't think, what I do think is now the government here, our government, is getting a clue as to how AI works and the importance in all different areas. There's all these different AI initiatives that are going on with the government, which I think is good, because in all of the aspects of voting, of safety, of borders, cybersecurity, all of these things are impacted by AI. And the government is kind of on the backside of it, because technology moves so fast and government doesn't necessarily move as fast as the technology. So as it's trying to catch up and trying to get ahead, that's a good thing. But I will say we have to look at where we are now. What can be done to close the gap of where it's just, you know, making funny videos of someone dancing to a different song, or singing, having someone else sing someone else's song in fun, and then someone making a video declaring war on another country in the voice of the president.
And it's simple too.
It's so simple.
Right.
It's so easy.
I'm going to read this part. Kramer previously admitted to NBC News that he's behind the fake Biden robocalls, and reportedly hired Paul Carpenter, a magician from New Orleans, for roughly $150 to create the Biden deepfake. Carpenter said it cost him $1 and 20 minutes of his time to generate the deepfake voice, but claims he didn't know it would be used for a deepfake robocall. This is the magician. So as little as $200, you could send a message into the ether saying whatever you want to say, and people will most likely believe it because who you are faking. So
yeah. So this Carpenter guy, the magician, is he charged with anything?
It doesn't necessarily say. Carpenter says he regrets his involvement, but Kramer has no such concerns. This is a guy, Kramer, who hired the guy. I'm not afraid to testify. I know why I did everything. If a House Oversight Committee wants me to testify, I'm going to demand they put it on TV. because I know more than them. So yeah, it doesn't say anything. This
guy is
got some balls.
Again, kind of how we talked about earlier with the guy who was hiking. He's just like, you know what? I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. Right. I'm the best at this. Call me up.
All right. We'll see how that. Okay. See how them felony counts and that $6 million you got to pay. See how that works out for you.
Crying like some of those January 6 people who were so big and bold, but now they're in jail. It's just like, oh no, I didn't need it.
And
too late, bro.
And our government and our policy, they've got to lean on this dude, because if they don't send a message,
if they don't drop the hammer on this guy,
more people are going to try it.
Yep.
All right. So that's going to do it for the culture. I'm sorry, for the second string. We're going to move into for the culture. And this is something a little local to us. If you remember, there's a kid who is dancing in a chair because his class just got informed that they all were going to see Black Panther when the first one just came out. So, the whole Black Panther phenomenon.
All of it, the costumes,
crazy,
everything.
Right. So when the kids in this class in Atlanta, it's a local academy here in Atlanta.
Ron Clark Academy.
Yeah, right. When they found out that they got free tickets to go see Black Panther as a class, they were super excited. And the little kid standing in the chair doing his little dance went viral, right? And of course we took
so cute. Kid was so cute.
Yeah, we took it and did what we did on the internet, right? Well, if this don't make you feel old,
because what the kid was maybe 10, 11?
I want to say maybe 10. Fast forward to 2024, the high school class of 2024 is celebrating graduation season, including Jacob Lindsay, a kid who went viral for dancing in school when he found out he was seeing Marvel's Black Panther in theaters. So just a feel good story about the fact that, we see memes and we see things go viral and we, join in on the fun. And then we kind of go on about our way
to the next viral thing.
Right. We kind of just not necessarily discard, but it's like, we move on to whatever new or whatever happened. And so we very rarely learn about the people or get to see the people behind the actual meme. So I just thought it was good that, fast forward 10 years, now this guy is graduating. His kid is graduating from high school and has got a future ahead of him. And, when you do see people who are subjects to memes, it ain't all necessarily positive,
right.
But the fact that, this is a feel good story that we didn't take his meme of him dancing and use that for something disrespectful or negative, right? When it came
but whenever
out,
you want to celebrate something, this is what you pop into the group chat or on the timeline.
When you get good news, you shared this meme of this kid dancing in the chair. And then to come to find out, he actually is graduating from high school. It's just a feel good story. So I just wanted to put that in there. Didn't have necessarily any comments, but the fact that he's actually looks like he's doing, on the right track to, do even more nice things depending on what he does after high school. So I just thought that was a cool little story.
Yeah. It's always good when we can do it for the culture that makes you smile. And this kid was so cute.
Right.
And I saw, after his graduation, at his graduation dinner with his family, he got in a chair and he kind of did the dance again. He did. Right, and I was like, oh, this is so cute. I was like, this is the cutest thing. So it just brings back the nostalgia of 2018.
Right.
When Black Panther came out and all these little kids were so excited. They were and adults too, but just to see the wonderment on the kids' faces when they went to the movies. They dressed up like Chadwick Boseman. And I mean, not just Black kids. I mean,
all the kids,
all the little kids, regardless whether you're a boy or a girl, whether they were Black or Hispanic or white or whatever it is, everybody, all these kids want to be Black Panther. And just to see the joy on these kids going to see this movie, and then just the joy from this particular video, because they were playing a little song and it's how the kids do the yah thing, and they were kind of like going around the room and everybody kind of did their little thing. But this kid really stood out, and it was this is a feel good. This is a good one.
Absolutely. All right, so that's going to do it for the culture. We're going to move into the hookup, and my hookup for this week is to look at the actual price or get confirmation of the price of anything that you pay or purchase before you use Apple Pay. So if you're not familiar with Apple Pay, that's the ability to add credit cards, debit cards, reward cards, tickets, passports, whatever the case may be, onto your phone as a digital ID or a digital credit card. And you actually use your phone to actually tap to pay, whether you use your watch, your phone, or whatever the case may be. But my tip is look at the price before you agree to use Apple Pay. And the reason why I brought this up is because there was a scam that was going on that this lady, she put on the internet, and she wanted to actually complain that after the scam happened, she had little to no recourse, even after calling Apple Pay, even after calling her credit card company. So she's basically out of $1,000. And the way this scam works is she tells her story that she's in her local Target. She's walking out to her car. There's some kids that's got a little booth or a little table set off to the side. And they're saying, please donate to our whatever the fund is. They're selling chocolates. You buy some chocolates. The proceeds go to fund this whatever. Not out of the ordinary from Girl Scouts, any of the, kids selling water, whatever the case may be. It's not atypical to have some kids trying to sell something for funds to go to something else, right? Where the scam happens is they verbally tell her the cost of the chocolates. And she said the story, it's like $12. I can't remember what the actual amount is. So what happens is after they tell her the amount, she opens up her phone, selects the card, and puts it on the payment thing, the little disc or whatever they're using to actually charge the amount. When she looks at her phone, instead of being charged $12, they charge her $1,000. Right. So she went off of what they said, not actually what was displaying.
They distracted her when they were telling her the $10.
Right. And they just tapped it real quick. So she pulls up her phone to go pay. They quickly put her phone on the thing and pays for it. She gets a little ding. She notices that it was a lot. For whatever reason, she didn't go back. Well, she did go back and say, y'all overcharged me. And they what's the word? They apologized. They apologized profusely. Oh, we didn't mean to recharge you. We didn't mean to charge you, whatever the case may be. I don't know why she didn't demand a refund right then and there. I guess she just assumed that they were going to refund her money. They didn't. So her thing is she's upset at Apple because she tried to call Apple. They said, look, you've agreed.
You validated it.
Right.
When you put your face and scanned it and accepted it,
you made that purchase, right?
You got boo.
Right. We can't, as Apple or as her credit card company, she called Goldman Sachs because, of course, MasterCard, Apple Pay, or their card uses Goldman Sachs, who was the bank. She calls both Apple and both Goldman Sachs, and they're like, we don't know what to tell you. So she's upset that she doesn't have any sort of protections on the Apple side or the credit card side for, fraudulent or mistaken purchases. My tip to you this week is if you're going to use Apple Pay for anything, especially at a food truck, especially from a regular
someone
person
who isn't licensed,
right.
You can't, they don't
have a brick and mortar anywhere. Yeah. Look at the charge before you actually agree to the purchase, because it is as easy as you just putting your phone up to your face and then putting the phone or touching it with your thumb. If you got one of the older phones with Touch ID, it's super easy to buy things, which means it is equally super as easy to get scammed for things. So if you're using Apple Pay a lot, please confirm what the cost is before you actually use Apple Pay, because there's a scammer born every minute, Jack.
Or slow things down. They rushed her on purpose because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hustle.
I don't even know if there was anything that she could have done, even on the face scan. Because when you go to double click to say pay, I'm trying to think, because when you were talking before I read the store, I was like, because I just used my Apple Pay at Target, like before the show, I was like, let me check to make sure this whatever. And then I realized, it was something outside.
Right.
But it's one of those things where, I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but anything like that, I was like, you know what? God bless you. I can't be. Sorry.
If you don't got no loose change, it is what it is.
Right. If I don't have no cash, which I rarely have. No, but I mean, if you're like at a food truck or something, and they overcharge you, you could probably dispute that maybe because it is a company. But if it's like just like people just random outside.
You can. You just have to stand there and demand that they initiate a refund or a chargeback for the difference. Yeah. What she didn't do was she was passive aggressive and she didn't want to cause the issue because they were kids, or they appeared to be kids. And she just assumed
they just had somebody older running the game with them.
Well, she just assumed that Apple or MasterCard or Goldman Sachs would take care of it. And when they didn't, she was upset at the companies for not having better protections or whatever the case may be. But my thing is, okay, you can avoid that by, and I don't care who it is, they have to enter a cost in order to proceed with the transaction. It ain't nothing for you to say, all right, show me how much it is. And they hold their phone up and show you the $9 or the $12. And then you do the face thing and then you actually pay. That goes for anybody, whether it be, sending money to, like, if you can do like the Apple Cash App, you can do Venmo. But what you do is, instead of fat fingering their cash tag or getting their phone number wrong or entering the wrong email address to confirm who you're paying, I always, if I'm paying like my barber, he uses Cash App. I tell him, hey, show me your
code, your QR code.
The barcode. Yeah, the QR code. Yeah. You can go in there, show the QR code. I'll
scan that.
And that means I automatically know who I'm sending the money to. And then, I look at I say, all right, well, how much it is? And he said, oh, it's $60. Before I actually scan it, I look at his phone and see he's charging me $6, because again, it's easy to pay using Apple Pay because that's the whole point. They make it easier. Well, if it's easier to pay, that means it's easier to get scammed. And you have to take some responsibility as the person with the money to ensure that the transaction. Right, exactly. So that is my tip.
If I were her, and if she really wanted to kind of push this, maybe she could like go after Target or something at small claims court, because it is on their property. They are allowing people to
authorize
solicit to do that. So
maybe they didn't. Maybe that's part of the hustle, and again, they're kids, so you say, all right, well, I don't want to bother the kids. So Target was like, all right, y'all go ahead. Y'all just selling chocolate. All right, we cool. They didn't sign nothing. They didn't, give them any sort of stipulations, and then the people actually paying for it, if you do get overcharged, they were a little bold to charge her $1,000. I would have charged her $20.
$100 maybe.
Right. They charged her
to say, oops, I added extra zero on the 10. That's easy. I fat fingered that.
Right.
Sure.
But the fact that, even after the charge, she knew it was over. She didn't go over there and complain and, like you said, go into Target and say, hey, these kids out here scamming people. Right. She just assumed, not assumed, the hustle is they're kids. So you're less likely to complain to a bunch of kids when they're just quote unquote trying to raise some money. So she figured, oh, Apple will take care of it. And when Apple didn't, now she's mad at Apple. When I'm saying take some personal responsibility.
Yeah. It's on you, baby.
And do something as simple as confirm the cost before you pay for it. You'll do that if you're buying a car. You'll do that if you're buying a house. You'll do that if you're buying a major piece of furniture or electronics. Do that with some chocolate as well, so you don't get scammed.
And I'm looking at this picture, the screenshot of the video. They don't look like little kids.
That's what I said, quote, air quotes.
Because when you say kids, before I actually pay attention to the video, I'm thinking like 10, maybe 11, maybe 12.
They look like some high school kids.
Or grown, pretended to be young, because they don't look young.
Yep, they ran the game on her, and a scammer's born every minute.
Got it for $1,000.
Yeah, you're not always going to be able to have the legal recourse, so you're going to have to take matters into your own hands and confirm your purchases.
Yep, that's some yikesy. Yep. Feel bad for her, but that's what it is.
Well, sorry. So that's going to do it for the hookup, and that is going to do it for this week's show. So Nika, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH to comment, connect, and share with the show. Definitely go to snoboscast.com. That's where you'll get all the information about the show, where to listen, where to download, and also leave a comment if you want to. So until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.